The most convincing performance you will ever watch is not on a stage. It is delivered across a dinner table, in a group chat, in the version of a person who shows up only when it benefits them to show up. And here is the strange part. That performance almost never fails because of a single dramatic slip. It fails slowly, in fragments, through small behavioral leaks the performer cannot fully control. Fake people are not caught by accident. They are caught by pattern. And once you know what those patterns look like, you stop being able to unsee them. A face that has to think before it feels is a face performing, not reacting. Genuine emotional expression is largely involuntary. Psychologist Paul Ekman's research on facial effects showed that authentic reactions tend to surface almost instantly and fade in a way that is difficult to fully control. A performed reaction works differently. It requires an intermediate step, a rapid internal judgment about what response the situation calls for, before the face is instructed to comply. That judgment costs time. It is measured in fractions of a second, but the delay is often perceptible, even if you cannot articulate why the reaction felt slightly off. Fake people display this constantly because their emotional output is rarely a direct read of their internal state. It is a calculated adjustment to what the room expects from them. You will see it most clearly in moments of unexpected news, good or bad, where the correct emotional response has not been preloaded. Watch for the gap between event and expression. That gap is where the performance lives, and it is the first thread that unravels everything else. Mirroring is a normal, well-documented feature of human rapport. Postures, speech patterns, and emotional tone naturally align between people who like each other, largely without conscious effort. What is not normal is mirroring that switches on and off depending on whether someone with social value is present. A fake person's mirroring is selective. They synchronize enthusiastically with people who can benefit them and drop the behavior almost immediately once that person leaves the room. This selectivity exists because their mirroring was never really about connection in the first place. It was a trust acceleration tool, deployed strategically rather than felt spontaneously. You will notice this pattern most easily by comparing how someone treats you in front of an audience that matters to them versus an audience that does not. The warmth that evaporates the moment it stops being useful was never warmth. It was calibration, and calibration only continues where it pays. There is a meaningful psychological difference between living your life and narrating your life while it happens, and fake people tend to do the second far more than the first. This connects to what researchers call impression management, a continuous, often subconscious monitoring of how one's actions will be perceived by others, running in parallel to the actions themselves. In practice, this shows up as small but telling behaviors. Mentioning an achievement that was not asked about, steering a story toward a detail that reflects well on them, or displaying an emotion slightly larger than the moment requires because a bigger reaction reads as more impressive. None of these behaviors, alone, prove anything. Everyone manages their image to some degree. The distinction is proportion. A person managing their image occasionally is being social. A person managing it constantly has replaced experience with curation, and curation has a cost. It requires so much attention that very little is left over for actually being present in the moment being curated. There is also a quieter tell buried inside this pattern, one that takes longer to notice. People who are narrating themselves rather than living in the moment tend to answer questions about their own feelings with unusual fluency, almost too smoothly, because the answer was drafted for an audience before it was ever asked for. Genuine uncertainty about one's own emotional state is common and often sounds clumsy. A polished, ready-made answer to, "How did that make you feel?" is not a sign of self-awareness. It is a sign of rehearsal. Sincere compliments are often imprecise, because the person offering them was reacting rather than calculating. Strategic flattery is the opposite, unusually specific, unusually well-timed, and frequently aimed with disturbing accuracy at whatever the listener happens to feel insecure about. This precision is not accidental. People who rely on flattery as a social tool develop a fast, almost intuitive read on what a target wants to hear, because their goal is not expression, it is effect. The mechanism resembles what social psychologists describe as ingratiation, behavior specifically designed to increase one's likability in the eyes of a target, distinct from genuine admiration, which has no strategic aim at all. In everyday interaction, This shows up as praise that arrives suspiciously fast after you reveal a vulnerability, or compliments that feel more like a key fitted to a specific lock than a spontaneous reaction. The hidden cost is trust erosion once the pattern is noticed, because once you realize a compliment was engineered rather than felt, every future compliment from that person becomes suspect, including the ones that might have been genuine. Deception is cognitively expensive to maintain, and nowhere is that cost more visible than in a story repeated over time. A single lie is easy to sustain. A narrative repeated across weeks or months to different audiences under different emotional conditions is not. Small details shift, timelines compress or expand, and the emotional framing of the story quietly rewrites itself to fit whoever is currently listening. This is consistent with research on narrative consistency in deception detection, which shows that fabricated accounts tend to degrade in detail accuracy over repeated tellings, while genuine memories, though imperfect, tend to stay structurally stable even as specific words change. Fake people are especially prone to this drift because their stories are rarely built from memory in the first place. They are built from impression management, reconstructed each time to serve the current audience rather than retrieved from what actually happened. You will not catch this in a single conversation. You catch it by comparing the version you heard 6 months ago to the version you are hearing now, and noticing that the two do not quite line up. What makes this pattern especially difficult to spot in real time is that the drift is rarely about facts changing outright. It is about emphasis quietly shifting. A role that was minor becomes central, a decision that was uncertain becomes decisive, a reaction that was mild becomes dramatic. The skeleton of the story stays intact while the meaning underneath it is slowly renovated, and that renovation almost always moves in the same direction, toward whatever version makes the storyteller look better in hindsight than they actually felt in the moment. Everyone adjusts their behavior somewhat depending on context. This is normal social flexibility, not deception. The distinction that matters is whether the underlying values shift along with the behavior, or only the surface presentation does. A genuine person might be quieter at work and louder with close friends, while holding the same core opinions in both settings. A fake person's opinions themselves change depending on the room, enthusiastically agreeing with one group's politics, values, or tastes, then just as enthusiastically agreeing with the opposite position in a different room, with no apparent friction between the two. This reflects a self that has been organized around approval rather than around any fixed internal position, which means there is no belief stable enough to create contradiction when it is abandoned. The practical way this becomes visible to you is indirect. You hear from someone else what this person said in a room you were not in, and it does not match what they told you. That mismatch is not an isolated inconsistency. It is the entire operating system showing through the seams. The final pattern is the most reliable because it requires no interpretation of tone or timing, only observation of behavior across a longer stretch of time. Fake people are disproportionately present during opportunity and disproportionately absent during cost. They respond quickly when you have something useful to offer and slowly, or not at all, when you need something from them with nothing attached. This asymmetry reflects a relationship built on transactional logic rather than genuine investment, even when the language used sounds identical to genuine care. Social exchange theory describes relationships partly in terms of perceived costs and benefits. And while every relationship involves some exchange, a relationship that is purely exchange collapses the moment the exchange stops being favorable. In everyday terms, this is the friend who is available for celebrations, but never for the difficult 3 a.m. phone call. The colleague who is helpful in front of leadership and useless in private. The pattern is not dramatic. It is quiet, consistent, and, once tracked across enough instances, unmistakable. None of these 7 patterns, observed once, proves that a person is fake. Human behavior is inconsistent by nature, and a single delayed reaction or a single well-timed compliment could just as easily be coincidence. What separates a genuinely inconsistent person from a fundamentally fabricated one is repetition. The same gaps appearing again and again, across different contexts, over enough time that coincidence stops being a reasonable explanation. Fake people are rarely undone by one dramatic betrayal. They are undone by an accumulation of small, structural leaks that were always there, visible to anyone paying close enough attention. The unsettling truth is not that deception exists. It is that most of it hides in plain sight, waiting only for someone to stop watching for a single lie and start watching for a pattern instead.